Hi everybody, my name is Jim Nixon. I'm an ASB professional, currently working in the local authority sector. As I've said on my LinkedIn page, I just wanted to share a few tips from my experiences as an ASB professional. My background is policing for more than 20 years. I also have worked in the housing sector in the ASB field, and obviously more recently over the last couple of years in the local authority setting. Just a quick disclaimer from me in terms of what I'm going to give you now is just a few tips. Please obviously always look at your own policies and procedures. These are just my own personal views from my own experience. And always obviously consult your legal team or your legal advisors in line with your local setups. So first tip I wanted to talk about today was what is ASB, what isn't ASB, and in particular what I want to look at is neighbour disputes. In my experience, if you don't deal with neighbour disputes swiftly, then you are going to be in for a whole world of pain, and you're going to be dealing with these issues for years and years. And I mean that. When I first came to my current post, we had cases that were up and running for some of them for more than 3 years, and you really don't want to be doing that. The time, the effort, the pain, the grief that causes, with a little bit of early intervention, you can nip these things in the bud quite quickly. In my experience with a lot of neighbour disputes, you need to be looking at a couple of things. Number one, is the behaviour that's being complained about reasonable or unreasonable? Again, what I've found is in a lot of cases, a lot of the behaviour is reasonable. And what we experience now as ASB professionals is a lot of complainants who have very, very low tolerance levels. And it's managing those expectations. So the best way to kind of explain what I'm talking about is I'll give you a recent example of a case that we dealt with on lockdown. So scenario is you've got a lady in her 70s who lives with her husband, who's got a few challenging issues, and she's like his main carer. So the next door neighbours recently moved in. I think they're sort of like middle-aged. And what the elderly lady was doing was she was going out into the garden at about 3 p.m, 3:30 every day, just to get a little bit of a break from her husband. And she was putting on her headphones, and she was having a bit of a sing. Now, there were local neighbours nearby who heard her, had no issue with it. They were fine with it. The next door neighbours obviously took umbrage with obviously her singing in the garden and made complaints not only to us as a local authority, but also to the police. And the police were called out there 3 times. Question to you guys as ASB professionals: how would you have dealt with that particular incident? I was put under an awful lot of pressure, and so was my officer, to take enforcement action, to serve that old lady with a CPW, a community protection warning. And my view was, is that behaviour unreasonable? And in my opinion, absolutely not. So it's about managing the expectations, as I said, of that other party who were not happy initially. But when we explained it to them, and when we went through it in a bit of detail, and we offered them mediation immediately with a private sort of independent company that we use, they were on board. The elderly lady took a bit of convincing, and I sort of had to go through family members to get her to sort of see sense. But once that had been done, We got the mediation in place straight away, and we managed to get the two parties kind of talking remotely via shuttle mediation kind of arrangements, and it worked really, really well, and it resolved the problem straight away. And we've had no further issues at that particular location. Now, I know for a fact that if we had taken enforcement against an elderly lady that was, you know, just doing her own thing and not really causing any problems, that would have caused a lot of issues. And also, we wouldn't have got to the bottom of it quickly, and it would have just run and run and run. And I don't know what you guys think, but what I find with a lot of neighbour disputes is a lot of people forget after the initial sort of complaints, they forget about, if you let these things run, they forget about the initial complaints and they become obsessive. You know, they become obsessed about what they're complaining about. And it becomes, for me, about winning the battle and not really about the original problem that they've reported. So the advice and the tip really is nip these things in the bud quickly, get a good understanding on what's going on, you know, do your thorough investigation, be impartial, listen to both sides. But when you know it's not unreasonable behaviour, you have to act swiftly. And what I'm not saying is, if you deal with an issue and, you know, there's vulnerabilities there, mental health, alcohol addiction, drug addiction, you've still got to be dealing with those issues. You know, you've still got to be looking at dealing with those problems and referring those individuals on. But what you're saying to them is that what I'm dealing with is not ASB, and it's just a neighbour dispute that we can try and resolve quite quickly if you're willing to participate. So never ever sort of what I'm saying is, don't just, you know, if it's not ASB, don't just shut the door if there are vulnerabilities that need to be addressed. We've actually now written into our policy some of those kind of reasonable and unreasonable behaviours. It's not an exhaustive list, but it just gives a flavour of, you know, the sort of things that, you know, are sort of ASB and the sort of things that aren't. So that's the first tip that I wanted to share with you. I hope that's been useful. As I said, it's only my view. It's only my experience. I'm sure you guys have got a lot of experiences and things that you want to share. But it's just the first tip. And come back tomorrow and I will do another tip tomorrow where I'm going to be covering the subject of injunctions and can you use injunctions when you've got a criminal investigation ongoing as well? Are you having two bites of the cherry? Or can you run an injunction case and a criminal case side by side? And that's the question. I'll be coming in with another tip tomorrow covering that subject. If you like this post today, it's my first one, so I hope it's been okay. Please like it, reshare it. And as I said, the whole idea of me doing this is about sharing best practice. Let's listen to what you guys have got to say as well. Post your comments, post your ideas. If we all post and get involved in the ASB community, then we're all going to learn from each other. And, you know, overall objective is to give the victim a better level of service and eradicate antisocial behaviour in our country. So thanks for listening. I'll be back tomorrow with tip 2, and there'll be a tip every day this week. So look forward to meeting up with you again tomorrow. Thanks very much, guys.